read 12 and 13 just because this is where the message specifically comes from, 12 and 13. But God said to Abraham, "Be not displeased because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you, for through Isaac shall your offspring be named. And I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring." I saw a recent news story about a 7-year-old boy who ended up in a washing machine. And it got my attention. Evidently, the dad just recently was sentenced for murder. And it just really blew my mind how a 7-year-old boy ended up in a washing machine, lifeless. And so I said, what in the world happened? Start trying to find and dig and read. And some of y'all may have read the story down in Texas. Do y'all know why the little boy ended up in the washing machine? You know, the wood was all over. The little boy had gotten into his daddy's oatmeal pies and his mama's donut sticks. And they were angry because he kept getting into their stuff. And so they went back and looked at text messages from the parents where they were threatening that we're going to put you in the oven, we're going to do this to you, we're going to do that to you. Now, I grew up eating oatmeal pies, and they was pretty good. I mean, little Debbie did a thing with them oatmeal pies. They are good. But are they that good to where I would hurt somebody if they got my oatmeal pie? Now, don't raise your hands in here. But some of y'all in here don't want nobody getting in your stuff. Young people, I hope you don't have parents like that. That if you get in their stuff, they will threaten to kill you. Don't look at grandma right now. Don't look at auntie right now. Don't look. But sometimes the devil is so crafty that he will make us think that stuff is more important than people. When stuff becomes more important than people, you know that Satan is in charge. Jesus didn't hang up on the cross for stuff. He didn't hang on the cross for us to have stuff. He hung on the cross for people. And children are people too. We live in a society where we value certain people, certain age ranges of people. And it seems like the younger you are, the less you are valued. If you're in the womb, you are really not valued very much at all in America. Americans will kill you in a heartbeat before you even get here. Your heart beating, you moving, but Americans will kill you because they don't value you. God does. He says, before I knew you, even in the womb, I knew you. I had plans for you. I had a purpose for you. Amen. 2 and 3 years old, this world, they don't value 2 and 3-year-olds that much. They don't value 5, 6, 7-year-olds that much. I read about a 7-year-old girl who got shot in the head on a Sunday morning. And her mother and her 3 sisters were riding in the car. The man shot all the windows out down in Houston, Texas. And the little girl said, "Mommy, why is Jasmine not talking? Mommy, why is Jasmine not moving?" She had been shot in the head by a man that didn't even know them. No value for life, for youth. That little girl was 7 years old. And her sister was at school asking, "Mommy, is Jasmine coming back? Is she going to be at school?" Because she didn't really understand. It's not a game. You don't come back. You're gone. But God said. Genesis 21 is troublesome for me because it reminds me of how sad our world is. There's 3 ladies well, 2 ladies, Sarah, Hagar. And then in the middle is Abraham. So there's this threesome, Sarah and Hagar, and then Abraham's in the middle. How many 7-year-olds we got in here? We got any 7-year-olds? Behind me, 1, 2, 3. Man, can we give God praise just for them being here? They still here. The enemy's trying to take their lives, but God. See, we think because we're kids that we're promised tomorrow, but we're not. We got Sarah over here who's like, I don't value Ishmael. You got Hagar over here and she's like, I love Ishmael. You got Sarah over here, I love me some Isaac. And you got Hagar over here, I could care less about Isaac. And in the middle, you got poor Abraham. He loved both of them boys. But God said, this is what I'm going to do. What do you do when you're in the middle of 2 crazy women? I ain't going to get too many amens up in here. And I'm not even really talking about Abraham. I'm most concerned about Isaac and Ishmael. Because those little boys are growing up with these crazy women. I mean, Sarah wanted Ishmael to be here. But then when he got here, she was mad about it. And then when Isaac shows up, oh, she really like, oh, I'm good. I don't need you no more, Ishmael. You get out of here. Everything was good for Ishmael until Isaac showed up. It wasn't great for Ishmael. It was just good. But when Isaac showed up, things got a little crazy. Look what Sarah says. Now this message is, but God said. But so I got to tell you what they said so you can understand why what God said is so important. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing. Now remember, in the first 13 verses, Abraham and Sarah, they received this new child. She said, everybody's going to laugh because of this child that I've been given. Everybody's going to have laughter. Everybody can laugh except Ishmael. Sarah was okay with everybody else laughing because of the new baby is here. Do we have any 2-year-olds? What are my 2-year-olds, my 3-year-olds? Got one back here? Cairo. So Cairo, he's like Isaac. Isaac has been weaned. He was circumcised on the 8th day, and he's been weaned from his mother's breast. That normally happens somewhere between 1, 2, just depends, I guess, on how good mama feeding him. I don't know. But somewhere along the way, they ready for solid food. He's been weaned. And so here's Isaac. He's been weaned, and it says that Ishmael was laughing at Isaac. Or there's some other versions that suggest that maybe he was poking fun at Isaac. We're not exactly sure if he was laughing with Isaac or laughing at Isaac. But either way, Sarah didn't like it. Sarah like, you ain't going to be laughing with my boy. As a matter of fact, you ain't even going to grow up with my boy. She says to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac. Sarah put her foot down. Sarah put her big girl pants on. And she's telling Abraham what Abraham gonna do. Have you ever been there? You ever seen grandma tell grandpa what it's gonna be? Auntie telling uncle what it's going to be. Mama telling daddy what it's going to be. Yeah, Sarah did that. You're going to get rid of them. The same woman that I told you to sleep with and create this whole problem, now I want to get rid of it. that crazy? You caused the problem, blamed it on the man, and now you're going to kick his son out and the woman that gave birth to him. Just crazy. Are you going to listen to what crazy people said? Or are you going to listen to what God said? Now, don't get me wrong. When I say crazy, I'm just saying that in a way to kind of make light of the situation. I don't believe Sarah is really crazy. She's crazy about her boy. She loves Isaac. And sometimes when you love, you do stuff that's irrational. Anytime somebody tell me they in love, I get concerned about them. I'm like, oh, Lord, they're going to start doing crazy stuff. Love make you do irrational stuff. I mean, Jesus dying on the cross, that is irrational. But that's what love does. And Sarah loves Isaac. She loved Isaac so much that she's willing to let Ishmael go out there and die. She loved Isaac so much, she's willing to let Hagar go out there and die. Because you got to realize they live in some treacherous times. They didn't have organized governments and organizations. They lived out there, man, you could get out there and somebody say, oh, boy, he got some money. We're going to get him. People are looking at your children. They see how blessed they are. And say, we're going to get him. My wife's father, he tells a story about when he was growing up. He went to Sterling High back in the day, and he tells a story about how this boy would come and get his lunch money at school. Day after day, he would get his lunch money. And when his daddy found out about him, his daddy said, oh, no, that boy ain't get your lunch money no more. And his daddy stepped in because he loved his son. And if you love your children, you'll find yourself going up to school doing some stuff that looks crazy too, because you love your child. Sarah loved Isaac so much that it made her hate Ishmael. Sarah said, cast out that slave woman and her son. He's not going to be heir with my son. He's not going to get the same blessing that my son gets. It's a sad thing when you got a Sarah spirit in the church. Where you got people, they can't see you getting blessed the way they get blessed. Your blessing got to always be smaller than their blessing. They don't want your child getting what their child get. They don't want your child getting the same education their child get. They want to make sure their child get a little bit better than what they're going to make sure he get a little bit extra. That's why I stay at the back of the line. That's why I eat last in the church. Because Jesus said, whoever want to be greatest of all must learn how to become least of all and servant of all. We got so many people in the church want to be first in line, want to get the double portion of the food, want to always get the best of the best and leave scraps for the rest of these people, like you better than somebody else. I know I ain't talking to nobody in here, but some of y'all got Sarah as your mama, Sarah as your grandmama, and she been looking out for you and taking care of you and spoiling you and sparing the rod. Isaac can't do no wrong, but any little thing Ishmael do, out of here. Isaac just open up his mouth and say whatever he want. Ishmael whispers something. Why you raising your voice? And you wonder why our kids are the way they are, because we got Sarah spirits showing favoritism, showing partiality that's not supposed to be shown, especially not in the house of God. She's already judged Ishmael. And Isaac is just a little boy saying what kind of big brother he's going to be. She's already thinking he's going to try to take what my boy got. And he's only just a teenager. And I got any teenagers in here? Anybody 15, 16? Giovanni? That's like Giovanni over here. That's like him. You know, he's over here worried about Giovanni. This little boy ain't worried about Giovanni, but his mama is. And a lot of times we learn from our parents. We start to pick up their ways and pick up their tendencies and the jealousy and the envy and all of these things. They just get taught. And we wonder why these kids come to school and act the way they act and do the things that they do, because the mama got that spirit on her, telling him, oh, you better than them kids on there. You ain't got to ride the bus. We'll drop you off every day. You ain't going to ever have to walk to school. You ain't going to have to worry about field trips. I'm going to cover you. I'm going to make sure you get all that when the time for your projects come to turn, and I'm going to do the project for you. I'm going to make sure you get an A. I mean, I grew up with them kids. I thought these kids were so much smarter than me. I felt like a dummy. But my mama was working. And they mama was working on their stuff, working on their homework, working on their projects. Turning it out. I said, good grief, that's a beautiful project. How did you do that? Shoot. I'm at home eating oatmeal pies. They eating oatmeal and eggs and grits and bacon and sausage. I'm looking for a biscuit. Verse 11 says, the thing was grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. It grieved Abraham. We ought to be grieved over our sons and our daughters in the school systems and in the churches, the way that they're being treated. We ought to be grieved. Abraham wasn't grieved for himself. He was grieved for his child. He was mad about that thing. He wasn't happy about Ishmael being out there, being cast out. I mean, it ain't like Abraham was living in a mansion. They lived in a tent as it was. People, they tell these stories about Abraham. Abraham was rich, and Abraham was doing well, but it wasn't as well as you think he was doing. If you remember from the previous chapter, Lot had a house. People were trying to break in the door of Lot's house. Abraham living in a tent. Lot was doing better than Abraham. When they decide which way to go, Lot said, I'm going this way. I'm going to good stuff. Abraham said, I take what's left over. Abraham was living in a tent. His son is going from a tent to nothing. Said, cast him out in the winds. Like, baby, we already living in a tent. And you're going to send my son out here? That thing grieved Abraham. When I look at some of the places that our children live in, the places that they grow up in, it grieves my heart. We go out here and we give away stuff and we donate stuff, and I go in people's houses. I mean, I walk in there sometimes, I'm like, oh, you kidding me? Your son living here? He's sleeping here? It grieves me. That bothers me. I don't sleep good. I'm trying to figure out how he's going to come up. But God. Man, I thank God for a but God. Whew. It says, but God said, this is what I'm going to do. He says, do what your wife said. Do what she said. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Now, Abraham, he said something, but he didn't say it with words. He said it with his face. I told y'all what Sarah said. Sarah said, kick him out. Abraham's face said no, but his mouth didn't say no. His face, his heart, everything about him was saying no. No, I'm talking about a slow no. You know, that slow no, you know you can't do nothing about it. It's like you being raped. You saying no, but you know it's going to happen to you anyway. It's like when you try to slam on brakes and you done got out there in that intersection, you see you getting ready to hit that car, you just like, no, you can't do nothing about it. It's a sad no. It's a weak no. It don't have no power. But this is what Abraham was saying. He's saying, no. Don't kick Ishmael out. Don't put my boy out there. Not my firstborn. Not the son of my strength. God, surely you got a plan for him. But God said, I got a plan for Ishmael. The God who hears. His name means God hears. God has a plan for Ishmael. Some of us are so concerned about the environment that our kids are growing up in, but we don't realize there's a but God. But God said, I'm going to make a great nation out of him. But God said, I have plans for him. He already told Hagar before that I'm going to make 12 princes out of Ishmael. That it's going to be so many that's going to come from him. It'd be like the sand of the sea. Sometimes we don't believe what God said. Abraham was trying to stop Sarah from creating distance between Ishmael and Isaac. But God said, let it be. See, sometimes distance is a good thing. Sometimes distance allows you to grow. Sometimes distance allows you to mature. If you take two plants and you put them too close together, they're going to be fighting for the nutrients in the soil. And those two plants are not going to be able to reach their full potential. But if you take those plants and you space them out a little bit, they got room to grow. They got room in the soil so that they can reach their full potential. And what God was saying was, don't stop what Sarah's doing. Sarah means it for evil, but don't stop it. Give Ishmael some room to grow. Boy, I wish we'd give Ishmael and Isaac some room so that they can grow. I wish we'd give Ishmael and Isaac an opportunity so they can grow. But guess what? Ishmael don't need the same kind of soil that Isaac needs. But it's good news for somebody. See, God said Ishmael can grow up in the wilderness. See, Ishmael, that kind of man that can grow up in the wild. Ishmael, that kind of man, he can handle himself out there in the woods. He can handle himself out there in the dungeon, in the graves, and all those places that Isaac don't want to go. Isaac, he needs to stay in that tent. Isaac needs to wear that suit. He's a businessman. See, Ishmael, he's a wild man. The Bible says that Ishmael is a wild ass of a man. Well, some versions say wild donkey, but I just wanted to say, you know it. I don't get to say that word too much. Now that I've been saved, I don't get to say it but 3 or 4 times a year. But it said Ishmael was wild. He can live in the wild. Everybody can't live in the wild and grow up in the wild and mature in the wild. And Ishmael is going to be just as powerful and great as Isaac growing up in the wild. We think that because you're from Boulder Creek or because you're from Piney Mountain or because you're from Brutontown that you can't grow up and be a mighty man of God. But God said, I can do something in Brutontown. I can do something in Piney Mountain. I can do something in Boulder Creek. I don't care where you go. I can raise up something great and mighty. And this is the promise that he gives for Ishmael. It says in Genesis 25:18 that the Ishmaelites didn't get along with none of their kin. I mean, it's some people that they need space because they just don't get along with other people real good. The Ishmaelites were them kind of people. Ishmaelites just like, get away from me. You might get messed up. Just don't get too close to me. Don't look at me. They kind of like New Yorkers. You know, I grew up in New York part of the time, and I moved down here to the South, and it was different. You come down South, people smiling, they waving, they looking at you. You go to New York, and they like, what you looking at? Who you talking to? You stupid or something? And it's a difference. And it don't make the New Yorkers worse or better. It's just they different. And you got to understand that people are different, and God uses our differences to show his might and his power and his greatness. In our church, there's a diversity of people in this church. Everybody in here is different. Nobody's better or worse. We're all different, and God will use us for his greatness and for his glory. He's going to use Isaac. He's going to use Ishmael. I got to tell you about Hagar, and then we're going to take this thing to a close, because Hagar is out here in the wilderness with her son. And it says in verse 16 that Hagar was crying. It says she took her son and set him under some bushes. She put him far enough away to where she couldn't hear him crying too loud, and she didn't want to see him die. But listen what Hagar says. She said, I don't want to see him die. She doesn't say, I don't think he's going to die. I just don't want to see him die. I know that this is getting ready to happen, but I just don't want to see it. She says, don't let me see the death of my child. My heart goes out to any mother who's seen their child die. That breaks my heart. Just knowing that they died, but actually seeing it happen, that's a whole nother thing. But Hagar just like, just give me this grace, Lord. I know he's getting ready to die, but just don't let me see him die. And Hagar's at the point where I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with it. I understand it. He ain't as good as Isaac. I understand it. I'm a slave girl. I understand it. This is what happens to people who are slaves. This happens to people who are in this predicament. I deserve this. But God said. See, here she is having a pity party. Here she is in depression and anxiety. But God said, hold up. Stop right there. It says the angel of the Lord from heaven calls down to Hagar and says, God heard your son crying. Now, Giovanni, he's a teenager. He's not a man yet, but he's not a baby either. And here's Ishmael out here. Ishmael is a teenager. He's about 15, 16, 17. He's in that in-between stage. And some of us want him to be a man, and some of us want him to be a baby, but he still ain't developed yet. God says, I heard him crying. Notice God didn't say, I heard you crying, Hagar. God says, I heard him crying. He tells her to open up your eyes and lift up the boy. She opened up her eyes, and all of a sudden she sees this well of water. Boy, ain't that amazing? God already had a provision for you. You just got to open up your eyes to see it. God, he got the plan worked out for Ishmael. He got a well set up. She walking around with a skin of water that's empty that Abraham gave her, and the provision from Abraham done ran out, but the provision from God won't ever run out. See, God said that I got something for you that's going to last you forever and ever and ever and ages on in. You ain't going to have to worry about Ishmael anymore. This is the last time you're going to cry for Ishmael. I wish I had a mama in here that would say, boy, I ain't going to cry for my son no more about this. Because God said, I got him. God's got a well of opportunity. God has a well of finances. God has a well of wisdom waiting on your son, and he wants to give him, to replenish him, to restore him, to lift him back up. In the name of Jesus. The angel of the Lord had to tell Hagar what to do because she didn't know what to do. Sometimes we so depressed, we so down, we can't see nothing. And God is saying, wipe your tears, open up your eyes, and look and see what I have made provision for you. If God sends you out into the desert, he got a plan in the desert. If God sends you up on the mountaintop, he's got a plan on the mountaintop. He sends you down in the valley, he has a plan for you in the valley. Wherever you go, God has a plan for you. Abraham's water ran out. Abraham's bread ran out. But God's water and his bread don't ever run out. I don't know what it is about Hagar and about Ishmael. The Christians don't talk about them too much. It seems like the Muslims think they own Ishmael and they own Hagar. Like some kind of way they special to them. But they're special to God. God put this in the scriptures. He put it in the text to let us know that Ishmael is special to me. Hagar is special to me. I got a plan for them. I know Isaac is the chosen seed, but God said, I'm going to make a great nation. I know Isaac is the one that came from Sarah and she was 90 years old, but he said Ishmael is going to be great. If Isaac can be great, why can't Ishmael be great? Because his daddy and his mama don't still live together? Because his daddy and his mama ain't happily married, Ishmael can't be great? But God said Ishmael can be great. Well, somebody ought to get excited. Well, me and his daddy ain't together, but God said he gonna be great. He didn't grow up in a perfect house, but God said he gonna be great. He grew up in the wilderness. He kind of wild, but God said he's great. Anybody with a teenage boy knows sometimes they can get a little wild. They can get a little crazy. They can do some stuff. But God said, I'm going to make him great. He didn't say he was going to start out great. He didn't say he was going to be perfect, pretty. He said, but I'm going to make him great. And when it came time to bury Abraham, do you know who was there? Ishmael and Isaac. They came together. Abraham was 175 years old. They came together to bury their father. And Ishmael wasn't trying to steal Isaac's inheritance. Ishmael wasn't trying to kill Isaac and try to get what Isaac had. Ishmael was blessed. Ishmael was doing good. Ishmael didn't need what Isaac had because God had blessed him just as he promised. Ishmael and Isaac, they both were blessed, and Abraham was right there in the middle. Sarah had been dead. We don't know about Hagar. We didn't hear about it, but we know that at the end, it was Ishmael, Isaac, Abraham in the middle. The Lord knows your plight. He knows what you're going to have to go through. He knows it well because he's been through it himself. The book of Hebrews tells us that Jesus in every way was tempted just as we are. He knows what it feels like to get kicked out. They ran him out of his own church in Nazareth. He knows what it's like to grow up with half-brothers because he had a father in heaven and they had a father on earth, and they didn't always agree and they didn't all believe in Jesus. It was later on that James came to believe in Jesus, but they didn't grow up with no perfect family. Jesus knows what it's like to have a mother that's confused. She didn't understand all this stuff about Jesus. And Jesus knows what it's like to have to see your mother watch you die. Do you realize that Hagar's out here in the wilderness saying, please don't let me see him die? But when we see Jesus hanging up on the cross, who's there? Who's at the crucifixion? Who's standing out there as a witness? Mary had to stand out there while they hung her baby up on the cross. Mary had to stand out there while they spit on her son. Mary had to stand out there while they stabbed him in his side. Mary was standing out there while he had the blood streaming down. Can you imagine what that mother was going through? Whew. But God said, it ain't over. God said, this is temporary. God said, in 3 days, I'm going to raise your son back up. Mary, don't worry about the thorns. Mary, don't worry about the blood. Mary, don't worry about the crying out and all of this crucify him stuff, because in a couple of days, it's going to be some joy. God will give you dancing for mourning. God will give you joy in the morning. God will turn your sorrow into praise. God will turn your midnight into day. God will take your situation that's going left and turn it back right. God will fix some finances. God will fix some health. God will fix a situation that you don't think can be fixed. God will turn it around. And he'll do it sooner than you think. I can't believe that they thought that it was going to be turned around that soon, because it says when the other Mary showed up at the tomb, she still couldn't see. He had to tell her to stop crying, open up your eyes. I am not the gardener. I am him. I am your teacher. I am he. I am Jesus. I am the one. And she said, Rabbi, Rabboni, teacher. God can teach you something. I don't care where this life takes you or your children. God can bring them out. He brought Ishmael out of the wilderness. He brought Jesus out of the grave. He brought Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego out of the fiery furnace. He brought Daniel out of the lion's den. And if I was an old school preacher and I was hooping, y'all all be standing up shouting right now. But see, I don't want to prompt you. I don't want to try to push you to get you to praise. I'm just going to tell you what God to do in the situation. He brought Daniel out of the lion's den. He brought David out of the cave. He brought David out of the valley of Elah facing the giant. He brought Ruth out when she was down there in Persia and the Medes, and they were getting ready to kill all of the Jews. He brought every last one of them out. Didn't get touched. He brought his people through the Red Sea out of Egypt. Through the Red Sea on dry land. Over and over throughout Scripture, we see God bringing people out. I'm praying for these families, for these mothers. I hope y'all will pray. If it's anybody here mad about some oatmeal pies, I need y'all to come down here and pray. If you mad about some cookies, or you mad because somebody got your soda, I need y'all to come down here. We're going to get some oil out and we're going to pray. Because these children deserve better. Y'all don't want to come.